KUSF too. Interesting group of people.
Oh, he was a charming guy. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
And
hit
and
me
and
with your rhythm stick. Hit me. Hit me. Usa gula gula quick. Hit me. Yeah, and that's how we talked.
he had a great Cockney accent and a very deep, sonorous voice. And it was interesting that with all the physical problems that he had in life, none of that got in the way of his music at all. Ian Dury and the Blockheads, Hit Me With Your Rhythm Stick, and a number of other great ones that are worthy of your attention to go back and get to, if nothing else, to dance around the apartment aimlessly, ending up in the kitchen and wondering where Ian Dury has been all your life.
Yes, it was an awesome band, man. It was they were in that late middle to late 70s just
Well, they were on Stiff Records. That'll tell
right,
you all you
right.
need to
And
know.
remember, if it ain't stiff, it ain't worth the
And
I think I
the
still have one of those T-shirts somewhere.
how that label didn't become a powerhouse, I don't know, but they finally just dribbled out of business,
Drugs,
and I hope so.
drugs.
I hope it was drugs. Uh,
There could be no other reason that
I don't know
Stiff
what the problem was,
Records.
but we can only hope it was drugs.
But boy, what a stable of artists they had.
Really. And
Yeah,
Nick Lowe and Elvis Costello still going, not
yeah.
together anymore.
Well, they
David,
were last. I mean, they toured together. They're not, and Rockpile is not. Has been out of business for years. But Elvis and
well, Rockpile sort of came apart because Nick Lowe and Dave Edmunds, for some reason, didn't get along. Well, the Dave Edmunds is Welsh, And that when they draw the line, that's it. Draw the
yeah,
line in the
because
marsh.
not for nothing, but who couldn't get along with Nick Lowe?
Oh, I don't know. I
I
don't
mean,
know that much about either one of them.
I
You
know
know what
that.
the deal is? They were both producers, Vinny.
Right.
That's a mess. You can't have two producers in the band.
Well, I met Nick Lowe at the Bammies years ago. As a matter of fact, one of the wonderful things in my life is I got to go up on stage and sing backup to "Cruel to Be
Ooh,
Kind,"
I'm so jealous.
and which is maybe my second favorite Nick Lowe song. Um,
I love the
but
sound of breaking glass. Might be my favorite.
yeah, yeah, I'm. What's so funny about "Peace, Love, and Understanding"? The way his versions of it.
His version
Uh,
is beautiful and powerful,
yeah,
and not many people who write songs like in that pop genre write a world beater that just translates into all languages, into all moods, into all people, and everyone can understand it. And he did that with that song.
right. And that song and the timelessness of that song is as relevant today as it was. What was it when they write that thing? It's 76, 77, something like that.
The funny thing is, he did. I think he did "Peace, Love, and Understanding" with Brinsley Schwartz before he started working with Stiff Records.
I
Before
think
Elvis
yeah.
Costello ever recorded it,
I think you're right. I think you're right.
and
I
that was
think
a
that
great band.
yeah, yeah. And if you want to spend some time going back on YouTube and searching out Brinsley Schwartz,
You can't go
strongly
wrong.
suggest it.
Yeah,
Strongly suggest it.
just a band that got left behind for no good reason. There was just no way to predict it.
Well,
It's like well, there's a handful of examples, but Brinsley Schwartz is an example of an English band that should have been recognized.
well, Mikey, sometimes I tend to think that there were so many bands at that time.
Yeah,
I mean, how many people, you go back and you think of that period of rock and roll. Rock and roll was just kind of reemerging from a pretty dull place. The big groups had kind of started on their breakups. The Beatles were gone. The mid '70s. The airwaves were filled with
Boston.
yeah, just pap. Yeah, just AM stuff that could be played on AM radio. You still hadn't really, for many people, hadn't made that transition over to FM radio yet.
Yeah.
So, you had the good stuff and the stuff that was, everybody in London was looking for the next best thing. Many people thought Springsteen was going to be the next best thing, and in many ways he was.
Well, he was.
But for a certain level, that's when rock kind of split up. And now
Bruce
you had
Springsteen was so lucky that he had a long career. He could have had one or two albums and been thought of as an interesting singer-songwriter, but he rose higher than that, and he sustained
well,
the excitement.
we were talking about this at the show the other night. The reason Bruce Springsteen is Bruce Springsteen is, I think, because of the E Street Band. When you go see that show live, you are seeing the best band in the world.
Yeah,
You can talk
and
about the Rolling Stones, you can talk about whoever you want to talk about, but that is the tightest, bestest band in the world. They
in fact,
are
you look at that band,
phenomenal.
and it looks like they're not doing anything.
Right.
It looks like nothing is happening, and the truth is everything is happening.
It's
It's
all
just
happening.
yeah, it's all happening. It's really the remarkable play is a wonder to see, really.
And in any of its configurations, whether whether you have, you add Patty into the mix, you take Patty out of the mix, you add Susie into the mix, you take Susie out of the mix. The horn section, whether you're using the La Bamba horns, which they did
Right.
in some tours, or the horn section is there now with Eddie Kingfish Mannion, who plays just a brilliant saxophone. I mean, you even think about it. They lost what might have been the biggest piece of that band.
Yep, they did.
And there are not
They
a
lost.
lot of Bruce Springsteen fans that thought that this team, listen to me, this band would carry on after the loss of Clarence Clemens. And yet, what happens?
Well, there's a lot of good players out there, and the opportunity to continue with doing two things. You have to honor all the pieces that Clarence played. You can't go at it too differently than the way he played it, and you have to be the new contributor playing in that style for new material. And it's a being bothered by a cat. It's a big responsibility that has, because then you have to answer the other requirement, and that is, what's Bruce writing? What did Bruce write? How do we have to play this? How do we arrange it? How do we make it a part of the for the next album, for the next continuation? How do we stay as we were by adding a new piece? It's a big challenge.
Right. And you also, I mean, I think the big challenge, not only for musically, but also in the stage show, you had to find somebody. You had to find somebody that gave you at least a piece. Nobody will ever be able to replace Clarence Clemens.
No.
Nothing will be able to replace that presence.
Right.
But to have his nephew, to have another Clemens in that spot, doing that, and interacting with Bruce, at least, listen, and they're smart. They didn't try to make Jake Clarence.
No.
But they've come along to where it's, you miss Clarence, but you're happy to have Jake. You miss Clarence. It hasn't been the same since Clarence. I was at the first show after Clarence died. They did the comeback show was in Meadowlands, and I was at that show. I drove up from they did the 20-minute video in the middle of the show of Clarence, and yeah, you just didn't know how in the world. They brought Jake out, and I'm just looking. I'm seeing this poor kid, man. I mean, he can't hit a bad note.
No.
Or else all of these nut jobs that are so into Springsteen, like
With
yours
it.
truly, are gonna go nuts. And yet
Well,
they pulled it off.
it's great to see a unit perform like that. I'm trying to think of another example. You'd probably have to find a group of studio musicians that would play with that intricacy and with that simplicity and with that power and with all the dynamics that are required and all the moods they have to go through and all. Now it has to be quieter than quiet. Now it has to be more powerful than powerful. And that's the range that they use throughout the night.
Well,
And
yeah.
by the way, did Steven bring his 12-string Rickenbacker, his purple Rickenbacker on stage?
Boy, I'll tell you. I was going to tell you this. I was sitting behind the stage, so I
I
couldn't.
saw your pictures.
And it was a great seat. It was a front row behind the stage seat. It was one
Yeah.
of the best seats I've ever had because you got to see what everybody. But I couldn't tell what guitar he had because they were bringing the guitars up and back from the other side of the stage for Steven.
Steven's
Like I could
side,
see,
yeah.
yeah, I could see everything that Nils was playing. I could see everything that Susie was playing. I could see anything that Giordano needed, Charlie Giordano needed, whatever. I was on that side of the stage, so I could see all of that.
You
I
know,
just couldn't see the other side. I just couldn't see what they were delivering to the other side of the stage.
they had to replace another member of the rhythm section. We should give credit to they lost their bass man, and to replace the bass man in a band like that is an integral part. I mean, Max Weinberg's been playing with a rhythm section that has been unchanged since they were 15 years old or something like that. And I don't know who the new bass player is.
It's Gary Talent. It's another
Well,
new
who
bass
died?
player.
Yeah, one of them. Somebody, member of the band died. Other than Clarence, they lost two members.
Oh no! The organ player, Danny Federici.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay.
Danny Federici passed away before Clarence.
Sorry, Gary. I didn't mean the reports of your death have been exaggerated.
Yeah, exactly. And although he is kind of stiff on stage, I don't think he's dead. But
Sometimes it's hard to tell.
yeah, Danny was. I mean, Danny had such a tenderness. You know when he really shone, Danny. I mean, he's shown all the time, but when he had such a tenderness with like Sandy.
Mm-hmm.
And the way he would bring play the accordion in Sandy. It was
You were looking down on the accordions as they were being stashed backstage.
I never used.
They never used them. They didn't play that
Never
song.
used. Well, they didn't. Yeah, they didn't. Well, I'll get into the concert in a second and talk a little bit about that because it was certainly.
It was quite a night in Portland. Damon Lillard scored 71 points, and Springsteen's in town.
Yeah. A hell of a weekend for Portland, man. I think Willie scored those points on Sunday night. Although, it would have been fun to have just the basketball game, and then Bruce come out in the halftime and do his show, and then the second half of the game. It would have been something to see.
Indeed. I think next time for sure.
I love the Rose. Well, what are they? They have a Motor Center. Used to be I always call it the Rose Quarter.
You should.
Great venue. Easy to get easy to get to your seat. Not a lot of, the people are friendly. People have parked the cars and stuff that guide you in are friendly. We had rock star parking.
Woo-hoo.
We were 3 spaces away from the elevator that went up to the Blazers offices. I don't know if you've ever been to the Blazers offices, but it was in that garage that the players go into. Mm-hmm. Up the elevator and right into the venue. And getting in was easy and quick, and you got to your seat.
And how many Springsteen shows do you think this makes?
Michael, I lost count. I mean, it's over 100 easy. Yeah, easily over 100. Maybe over 150. I mean, when I was back in Pittsburgh and he was out there on tour, I was
You were there.
him, I was going up and down the East Coast every weekend that I could get tickets to a show. I was going to shows, boom, because in Pittsburgh, and plus, he came to Pittsburgh and played 2 shows a year in an auditorium.
How nice of him.
With Joe Grishecki. So he came.
He knew you were there.
Well, I think he did it for Joe, but he definitely knew I was there, without a doubt. And so, from the earliest days, I just couldn't. I lost count so many years. I guess I could probably go back through ticket stubs and find
the real count.
The real count. I tend to keep all my ticket stubs. Jim Fleming, a good friend of ours, jumped on here. You were asking about what bands would be able to keep that. And he said Chicago would be a band that has kept it together through a lot of change. I mean,
A lot of
Certainly
violent
more
change. Yeah.
changed in the East Street. Yeah, a lot of violent change there.
Well, if you take Terry Kath and Peter Cetera out of the band, how can you have Chicago? You might ask. And they managed to push on with Bill Champlin and with Robert Lamb, of course, remaining, and James Pankowski still arranging all the horns. So they had a lot of the spine of the band remaining. The whole horn section stayed. They lost their drummer, Walter Pears. What was his name? Damn, he was a good drummer too for a while. Something went wrong.
When I was 40, I would have remembered his name. Now, Danny
Seraphine.
Danny Seraphine. Yes, Danny Seraphine. I always remembered his name because there is a part on a truck called the Seraphine or something that's very similar to that drive.
The Seraphine Stretch,
like a gear thing that's either Seraphine or very similar to it, and they named it a Seraphine Drive, and I always remember his name that way. Danny Seraphine Drive.
I think for folks who don't know, who've forgotten about it, what a great, powerful band Chicago is. Just go back to their first album. It's a double record set, the CTA, and listen to the extraordinary delivery of complicated, strong music. It was really a tour de force.
My favorite Chicago song is, well, without a doubt, Dialogue Part 1 and 2. And if you ever want to if you ever want to hear a song that is a duet without being a duet, because it's not that they're singing together, they're singing at each other.
Yes.
They're using their writing and their voices to argue with each other in a song. It's a conversation between two friends.
And Kath is the involved one, and Cetera is the blasé one.
Right. And it is a masterpiece of, as a matter of fact, it may be one of the top, I would put it in the top 10 protest songs of all time.
And well written.
Well written, and then at the end they go into like a thing where they bring it together, and both of them sing. In essence, what is it? Kath convinces Cetera to come over to his side. That's how I've always read that.
Yeah.
That Kath convinces Cetera, so in unison they do a "We Can Make It Happen," and then at the end of the song, in its unusual way, it just stops.
Yes.
It goes cold.
Right on the word "we."
Yeah, right. Which really, I mean, the symbolism there just has always hit me as to, it's a song that has made Dialogue, parts 1 and 2. It is a song that I think has called more people to action in the mid-'70s than a lot of people, than a lot of songs.
You don't hear it very often. This is a good time to consider it again.
Yeah, because the stuff that they're singing about, if you go through the lyrics and you listen to it, the stuff that they're singing about in that song that was done in, I want to say 68, 70?
I think later than that.
Yeah, maybe
mid 70s. But Governor DeSantis would remove this record from all schools if he had from all radio stations. If he had the power.
Oh yeah. This is a song that would definitely, in this age of anti-wokeism, removable assets, this would be a song that I am sure would be picked on by who picks on songs. Is it Fox?
I don't know
I forget who picks on songs.
It needs to be played. That's all. Radio has a duty to use music to reflect the times that we're in. It's just a beautiful, and there's a lot of great Chicago songs. Less great when they kind of want commercially poppy in the mid-'70s, but yet even then they're love songs. That's what I'm saying. If you take Cetera and Kath out of the band and the band continues, you've got to understand that the lifeblood, the whole 25 and 624 sound is gone. And you
Right, they lost their edge. Taking those two people out of the mix,
insane.
and that's
You-
where the E Street
there's your
Band.
YouTube again, Vinny. Check out Live Chicago 25 or 624 on YouTube when they were young and mean, and Kath was in the band, and Cetera was a stone rocker. It was a great harmony, 1-2 punch, and see them live because they used to murder things live.
Yeah. No, I saw Chicago live a bunch of times. As a matter of fact, it's funny because, well, I liked Chicago when they first came out, but oddly enough, I'll tell you this quick little story, and then I want to get to Springsteen. I went to a dance at St. Joan of Arc.
I told you to stay away from Joan of Arc.
Nah, I can't. Her steak is too good. And there was this band that played at one of the St. Joan of Arc dances. Their name was Mantis.
I remember that name somehow.
No. Well, maybe I
No?
spoke about it before because it was just a bunch of guys from the neighborhood who had gotten together, but a few of the guys had brass.
Uh-huh.
And so they put this band together and they did a lot of Chicago and Blood, Sweat, and Tears. I was always into Blood, Sweat, and Tears.
Oh, yeah.
Always. I just loved that the horn sounds. It
Big,
just
it was a big New York band with a New
Yeah.
York sound.
always loved Blood, Sweat, and Tears. And these guys came out and they did probably 3 or 4 Chicago songs. And they did them so good that I said, I got to go back and listen to Chicago again. I think I'm missing something here. And I went up to the record store the next day because at that point in my life, I was working part-time at the record store. The next day, I went up to the record store and I pulled some Chicago records and started listening to them again.
Yeah.
And sure enough, it was like, man, this is good. You know, and this is like 72, 73, something like that.
In fact, you should start with the song that they advise everyone to start with, which is Introduction. That's how you start your Chicago education, if you have none to speak of.
The song that actually made me fall in love with Chicago was Does Anybody Know What Time It Is?
Mm-hmm.
Because it had always made me, I love harmony, and I love the horns. And I love that double, I mean, there's a complex part of Does Anybody Know What Time It Is? Where there's the horns, there's the harmony, and there's the guy talking.
Right. Oh, yes.
I think it's the 3rd verse of the song. And I listened to that in a set of headphones. And I was like, whoa. This is what it's supposed to be about, man. This is supposed to be what this is about.
You picked a good example of Robert Lamb singing lead with Cetera and Kath singing backup, and then the horn section adding all the taste and the dynamics to the song. And that was a feature of all their hits and all their big cuts when it was a young band and everyone was still alive and in the group.
Anytime that you want to hear something that's actually kind of cool, and I know it's a cover band, but there's a band they're mostly on YouTube, but they tour. It's a Russian band, and I know Russia these days isn't exactly in, but I don't know that these guys are, fighting a war or propagandizing. I got turned on to them way before the war started. Leonid and Friends. And they are a bunch of Moscow musicians that cover a ton of Chicago.
Wow.
And they've got the full on deal. They've got the horns, they've got the vocals down. I mean, it's like they took a Ford over there and made a Volga that was exactly like the Ford. I mean, it's unbelievable. The only thing is they can't quite dump the entire Russian accent.
No. Is Russian. You don't dump. Is Russian.
So while the intonation and the charts and the music is great, that at every point you get to at several points you get to in a song, depending on who's doing the singing,
Yeah.
they break into the Russian. There's a little bit of, you can hear a little bit of the Russian in there.
He's 25 or 6 to Volgograd.
But they're so good. And again, anybody who Leonid and Friends is the name of the band. They're on YouTube. They're all over the place. And you know, what the heck, man? It's treat yourself to the music.
I found a cover band, and I'm trying to get the name of it right now because it has such a funny name. The Me Me's. And I'm looking it up. Me. And they're great.
I think I've heard of it.
Somebody in the Me's. No, I can't find it. Well, I'll have to search it later.
Let me. I'm going to see if I can give you just a little piece, and I definitely want to get to Springsteen, and we will. All right.
Vinnie went to the Springsteen show in Portland. We haven't talked about it yet.
Right.
Other things have reared their head, which is how the show works. In case you
right.
haven't.
This is what. All right. Let's give you. Does anybody really know what time it is? And after this quick commercial runs, because I'm doing it off of YouTube, you can buy their albums and stuff. But let's give you this.
So I was walking down the street one day.
Can you hear that?
No.
I wonder why it's not pumping into the
system. Well, tell me this.
You hear that?
No.
All right, I'll figure out how to do this at some point.
You were coming down anti-Springsteen when the tickets were first announced because of the pricing and the.
Oh, I was pissed off.
And the storm that came with the pricing.
Oh, I was pissed off, man.
Now that you've seen the show,
God.
Are you still as angry now that you've seen the show?
No. Well, my anger, it's an intelligent anger. Sometimes, and in this country we have to, this whole Springsteen thing has really made me think. Because, I did my father when the tickets came out and the whole hassle, and believe you me, and the subsequent attitude of Springsteen and his management team about, well, if you don't like it, suck lemons.
Yep.
Which basically was what it was. But I'd have been a different person if I didn't see Saturday night's show. It'll probably be the last time I'll see Springsteen, unless somebody calls me up today and says, I got an extra ticket. You want to go tonight over here in Climate Pledge Arena? But to be honest with you, I don't know if I would go.
How? Because you had a good time the last time?
I got a front row seat. I got to see the band from a totally different perspective than I had ever seen them before. I got to see what the band sees.
Mm-hmm.
And not many people get that.
No.
Because even if you're up a few rows back behind stage, you don't get to see into the pit. You don't get to see.
The pit is like 3 floors below the stage. The pit is huge.
And it's fascinating what goes on in there. On a show of that magnitude.
Yeah.
The people who are tuning guitars and making sure that everything works, and an emergency comes up, somebody breaks a string, something happens, they got to move, It's like such an incredible experience to see that.
Like ants.
Yeah, it's just everybody's moving, everybody's grooving, everybody's setting up, everybody's talking, everybody's got a job and they're doing their job. What makes the people on stage work so well is the fact that the people that are in the pit know what the hell they're doing.
They've got
And
quite a crew.
yeah, their crew was incredible. So that's the first thing.
Just setting it up
Yeah.
is a miracle.
And if I'd have missed that, it was just a great way to see it. Okay, so then I was pissed off because of the price of the tickets, number one, and not even the price of the tickets so much as it was the way they were sold. And I initially was like, well, screw him. I'm not going to go see him. That's it. That's all.
Yeah.
If he can't take care of his customers, if he can't take care of the people that have been so loyal to him for so many years, he's got so much money that his grandkids, his great grandkids,
Can't spend it all.
will never be able to figure out how to spend it all. They'll they have so much money. It's worth more than $1 billion. He just sold his rights for $500 million. How much do you need? I know you have all these people, but I'm sure that you take care of all those people really well. I'd be shocked if there wasn't too many people that have worked with that band for a long time that aren't multimillionaires.
The guys who've been from the beginning probably are
Right,
pretty
I'm
good
talking
paid.
support people. I'm not even talking band members.
Right.
I'm sure the band members, nobody's checks behind that stage are bouncing.
No.
Okay, so the show. So I get there. I'm with Lorraine and Matt. I don't know if you know Matt. Is a good friend of Lorraine's. And we go, and they have 2 tickets in a row, like 2 rows behind me. But the single ticket is the first row ticket, row L. And it's right, like I posted on my YouTube. I mean, on Facebook. Right there. You're right. Nobody in front of you. Nothing. You stand up, and you got the clear, complete view of the stage,
Wow.
of everything that's going on behind the stage. You get to see them walk out and walk up onto the stage. And then, of course, you get the different members that come over, every so far, so long. And come out and talk to the audience. They opened up with No Surrender. And the band was as tight as you want to hear them, as they have ever been. These are 70 and 80-year-old guys that still have it. Now, maybe they don't jump around as much as they used to, and Bruce wears stretch pants. But
They're more comfortable than Levi's.
yeah, but
They don't quite have the look, but what are you going to do?
But I mean, it was they rolled. I mean, they played the hits, No Surrender. They premiered "I'm on Fire" on the tour. I'm just gonna pull up the set list here a second. I did not write down. So they opened with No Surrender. They did Ghost, Prove It All Night, which is, that gets the place going. Letter to You, The Promised Land, which was an incredible version. And then, of course, the ultimate New York song, Out in the Street.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when I'm out in the street, it's just the ultimate New York. Being a teenager, it encapsulates everything about walking down the street, hanging out in the street, that's where your refuge is. You live in the street. You go home to sleep, but you come out and you live hanging out in the street with a group of people, guys and girls. When I'm out on the street, I walk the way I want to walk. When I'm out in the street, I talk the way I want to talk. And it even captures the black and whites they cruise by, and they watch us out of the corner of their eye. I mean, it captures the entire adversarial relationship between the cops and the kids that are hanging out. And then they went into this just incredible. It was a lifting experience. I couldn't even take out my phone to tape it. It was a transcendental coming together of this band as good as you will ever hear them. They went into Candy's room, and Candy's room is just this great piece that just goes back and forth and bounces your heart here and drives it over there and puts it in the back of your chest and pulls it back out again. And then they went into I'm on Fire. And that was the first big treat of the night. That was the first, Then they did Burning Train, Johnny 99 in another way. I mean, I've heard Johnny 99 a million ways, and now it's 1,000,001. Then they did a song that I love, and heretofore had been rarely done. Matter of fact, the only time I had seen it live was when I was in Pittsburgh. He did it in that small show with Joe Grishecki, that 4,000-seat auditorium show, the E Street Shuffle.
Ah.
Fantastic song. Everybody form a line. And it was great. The whole place is going nuts. So he goes from there into an acoustic version of Last Man Standing. And I don't know if you know the story behind that song.
No.
That Bruce met this guy, I forget his name now, and they formed the Castiles, which was Bruce's first band. I think he was 17, 18, something like that. And out of the Castiles, Bruce is the last one alive.
Wow.
Out of his first band. So he has written a song about that. And it was about as heartfelt as you'll see him, because it was this amazing thing of you're watching Bruce sing about himself. And singing about his friends and singing, and it was great. Backstreets, and then he did Because the Night.
Oh.
And rolled it into She's the One. And they did a jazz kind of movement from Because Tonight into She's the One. That was, again, as good as you're going to hear, not just the E Street Band, but any band. That's where you got your money's worth. Well, I'll save that for later. I don't think anybody got their money's worth. If you paid $250 for a ticket, you got more than your money's worth. If you paid $8,000 for a ticket, you're going to be pissed off. And I'll tell you why in a minute. And then went from there to She's the One, Wrecking Ball, The Rising, and then Badlands. And then they stepped off for a minute, came back, and did Thunder Road, Born to Run. You got to do. I wonder if he's ever played a show without doing Born to Run after the album
the break.
Born to Run.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if he's ever done a show that he hasn't sung Born to Run before it was a record. Rosalita, Glory Days, Dancing in the Dark, which, I'm kind of done with that song, to be honest with you. Again. 10th Avenue Freeze Out, and then they closed it. Yeah. I mean, that's where he come down. He walked out into the crowd. He doesn't. It's interesting because it was the part of the show that seemed most mechanical to me.
Mm-hmm.
He comes down, he comes along the thing, he walks into the center of the audience, he gets up on a riser, and he sings it. The only thing that the moment in that song that doesn't sound mechanical is when, when he talks about Clarence joined, the big man joined the band.
Yeah.
That then you can see there's still emotion there. And um and then they closed it out with "I'll See You in My Dreams" that he came out on stage and did solo, an acoustic, and that was it. So did
It's
you
funny.
notice
I
anything?
just saw that being sung at the end of the concert for George that was held at Albert Hall. That was the last song in the concert. "I'll See You in My
Really?
Dreams." Yeah,
Um,
sung by Joe Brown of Liverpool.
did you notice anything in that set list?
Mm, tell me.
There was nothing from the new album.
Huh.
Not a word about it. Nothing. There was no Night Shift. There was no "Don't Play That Song for Me." Now, I
I don't
love
think
that.
was that album well received.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's not his best album at all, but it kind of at this point showed me a couple of things. That number one, something was weird because he had the horn section there, he had the means to play it. I'm still trying to find out, and I've been all over the Bruce boards, and haven't been able to figure out why they didn't play that. And I got to be honest with you, the that's part of what I wanted to see.
Something from the new album.
Well, not just that it's the new album, but his interpretations of songs that he says he grew up on, he listened to on WABC and all these other stations that were around.
The Gary U.S. Bond sound.
Right, all of that stuff, and it seems so odd to me that that he paid such homage to those songs by doing an album about them and videos and so on and so forth. And I mean, it's not that his versions are bad, and he had been playing them on the tour.
And then he stopped.
And then, well, I haven't looked at the set list before, and tonight we'll see what happens in Seattle. But I'm actually pretty pissed off about it because I wanted to see him sing those at least one of those songs. I wanted to see at least "Night Shift," or "Don't Play That Song for Me," or one of the other songs that go along with that. But sometimes
But
you don't.
you followed the board, so you know that he in this tour he has played them, but not every night.
Oh yeah, and it was a shorter set than usual. He had been playing an average of 28 songs. I don't think this one got to 3 hours. He played 26 songs.
For some of those are production numbers.
Yes, yeah. I mean, obviously 10th Avenue, Born and Run, Thunder Road. I mean, those are all, you're playing the hits. So
how come someone who paid $8,000 would be disappointed, but you're not? Explain that.
Because I don't think it was an $8,000 show.
Yeah.
I don't think it was worth $8,000 to go see Bruce, to go see that show. If you had said to me that you'll give, that you got to pay $8,000 for a really good seat to go see The River, or to go see, I don't know, him do Born to Run, Soup to Nuts, or something like that. Maybe I'd say when you walked out, and if you had but the Bruce that you're seeing out there today, while still great, while still an awesome show, while still a show that would give a lot to go see, I just don't think that it's an event that's worth $8,000 or $10,000 for a ticket, unless you got stupid money.
Well, maybe his head is somewhere else at this point in his career.
No, I think it. I don't think it's. I don't think his head would. Listen, uh, he's 70. What? 73, 72. I forget now. The guy's getting tired. I mean, he's coming out and he's doing it, and you're certainly getting. If you have an average concert ticket that you paid $300, $400 for, you get your money's worth. I just don't think you're getting your money's worth if you pay, a ridiculous price for the ticket.
How was his voice?
Generally good. No real high howls. Well, maybe one. On She's the One. But it was okay. It was okay. It wasn't. There was less energy I thought out of Bruce than I've seen in the past. Not a whole lot of less energy, but you could see that he's not jumping around. He's not moving like he used to.
Right.
His moves really come out to the audience and back, out to the audience and back. He's not doing a whole lot of laterals in the show. Like, remember before, he would jump up on the risers, he would go up behind the horn section.
Oh yeah.
He would do all of that stuff. You don't see that. I'll tell you who makes those moves.
Who?
Is Jake.
Oh.
Jake is all over the place. Jake comes up on the risers. He comes to the back of the stage and plays. He moves around.
Nils Lofgren used to be a gymnast. Remember, he
And-
used to do a lot of moves.
Yeah, and even, it's funny because even, and the one part of any Springsteen show that you're going to love is when Lofgren does the whirling dervish. He just spins around with the guitar and it's just electrifying. And while he did it some, it was short.
Yeah.
It was, okay, here's the whirl. You came for the whirl, you got the whirl.
By the way, go back and study Nils Lofgren's music that he made previous to the E Street Band as a solo artist and as a member of the group called Grin. And he had a whole string of really great radio hits from that time that bear revisiting. And go back and study Nils Lofgren as a solo artist and as a member of Grin, Grin.
Yeah, great stuff.
Great stuff.
And, as a matter of fact, it was funny when little Steven left, and they announced that they were going to replace Steven with Nils because Nils wanted to go, Steven wanted to go out and do his thing. I was like a little skeptical. But man, has anybody ever fit into a band? Maybe Ron Wood with the Rolling Stones.
Never got in the way. Always contributed, never got in the way.
Yeah, but Nils kind of, you could see that him and Bruce. Listen, it's nothing like Bruce and Steve.
Right.
That's kind of an unbelievable.
That's from the playground.
Friendship.
Yeah.
That's from the playground. But Nils and Bruce have a playing relationship. That to me was, I don't know, it was fantastic. It's always fun to watch them, and it was fun. It's been fun to watch them develop that musical relationship over time. To where sometimes it looks like, it's kind of funny. Sometimes to me it looks like Bruce pays more attention to Nils than he does to Steven.
And does Nils still sing background?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's the part of Steven's contribution that I love.
Yeah.
When he gets up, you get those two Jersey voices going.
Yeah, you get the for Glory Days and maybe their best song, maybe Steven and Bruce's best harmonizing. And they didn't do Bobby Jean, which I thought was really strange because they had done it, I think, the night before or the show
Hmm.
before. And that's kind of the goodbye song, isn't it? I mean, that was the goodbye song to Steven the first time he left. And I don't know that these guys are going to do another tour after this. I mean, Bruce may do some solo stuff. He may take a guitar and go play some clubs or something like that. But I don't get that after this tour. I think this is it. I think what I saw Saturday night was the final show I'm going to see. Now, they're still going to go to Europe. They're going to come back. Maybe I'll go to Vancouver. Maybe I'll try to see if I can manage it to go to Vancouver.
You think it's retirement after this lengthy tour?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think this is the goodbye. Now, I've been wrong before. Again, I didn't
Well,
think they were going to
how can a
continue.
guy stop writing songs like that? How can he stop?
Well, I'm not saying he's not going to write. I'm not saying he's just going to retire and go off into the sunset. But I don't think you'll see this production,
Yeah.
this version. Now, he may get together with Max, and he may get together with Steven and do I was thinking that Steven and Bruce ought to go out on the road and do the Righteous Brothers catalog. Just do
Who's
a
gonna
series of shows.
Somebody's going to have to sing Bobby Hatfield's parts, and there's nobody in that group that can do that.
Yeah, I know that would be kind of tough, wouldn't it? But something like that, where they go out and they pick a band that they loved when they were kids, and they
Rascals.
go out and they just cover, And I love the Righteous Brothers music, so I love that's always been one of my favorite groups. I don't think they could do the Everly Brothers, but I think they'll probably some form of that, and the shows will probably be on the East Coast.
Yeah.
One night drives. Where they're not out touring every night and all of that kind of stuff. Oh, no Patty. Did I tell you that?
No Patty at all, huh?
No Patty at all. No Patty, which I'm okay with.
Yeah, I know.
Obviously she adds to the band,
But she also detracts.
but there's a different dynamic. Um,
She's not on the tour.
well, I guess I heard that she's on selected dates because she was in Florida, she wasn't in Atlanta. I forget where else she's been on some of the dates. So I think she's probably home taking care of the grandkid.
Yeah.
I mean,
More fun than being on the road, believe me.
yeah. I mean, I think that she's more than likely just being a grandma.
Well,
And
I'm glad you went, Vinny. You got it out of your system. You came to a good end without being disappointed in the show or the experience. But the pricing is something that I guess Bruce is going to take one last piece out of the pie, is what it amounts to.
yeah, I think that's the worst part about it. I mean, we've talked now for 53 minutes about the best part. Well, actually, we talked for 20 minutes about Chicago and Leonard and Friends. But
But the best part is,
but yeah, the lingering, the fact that Bruce Springsteen, for so many of us that were so into his music, so many people who grew up and went to the bottom line shows, knew who he was when he was down on the Jersey Shore, playing in places like the Lion's Den in Wildwood and places like that, and who had kept an eye on him and had joined, for lack of a better word, the Church of Springsteen.
yes.
What he wrote meant so much because he captured the way we grew up and the things that happened to us in such a beautiful and heartfelt manner. He was able to describe our American experience. He was able to describe our the trials and tribulations that we had to go through to leave places that our family was, to be on the road and be lonely, to see our hometowns turned into crap holes, turned into and because people had given up. He chronicled the American give up
Hmm.
more than just about anybody else out there, and also the American resurgence.
And did it in a way that gave him the right to be compared to Woody Guthrie in a lot of ways.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he really was. And then for the end of it to be all about money, for the end of it to be for him to fall prey to Ticketmaster, and I use the word "fall prey" loosely. For
I
him
think that
to let
I think they made a deal with the devil and didn't think anyone was going to pay any attention to it. It just the timing was awful up against the Taylor Swift
right,
revelations.
and then also, Michael, after it, the way that their attitude came out of, well, if you don't like it, tough.
There's the highway.
There's the highway. Really puts a damper on the rest of the experience. Yeah, I loved what I saw on Saturday night. It was. Listen, it's a drug, and I got my fix. You can make as good a case for the people that follow Springsteen being a cult
Oh yeah.
as you can the people that follow Donald Trump
Or the Grateful Dead.
or the Grateful Dead or many other bands, maybe not on a scale like that. But it is a musical cult. It is a cult following a guy, a musician, a poet who we thought got us. But in the end, as happens with many cult leaders, we were disappointed.
The money changers are in the temple. Look out.
Yeah, we were disappointed. And yeah, I love Bruce. I love the music. I'll continue to play it. I'll continue to go back and listen to the words. I mean, 2 out of the 3 times I got married, my wedding songs were Springsteen songs. When I still can't listen to If I Should Fall Behind, because that was my last wife's and my wedding song. But just like that song, it turned out to be just words on paper with a little music on it.
Yeah.
You know, I fell behind, and she didn't wait for me. She kept going, and just like that. But Bruce knew how to catch that, and you also
he knew how to. He knew it because he had lived part of it or lived close enough to it.
Yeah, and you also knew, Michael. You also knew that you weren't the only one. Yeah. If this guy from New Jersey was writing about what happened to you and so close to the vest of what happened to you, you knew you weren't alone.
Right.
You knew that you weren't the only one out there.
And that makes it more than music somehow.
Yeah. That it does. And it's different than Elvis, and it's different than the Beatles, and it's different than, I don't know, it goes back to, you're right, it goes back to Woody Guthrie, it goes back to Bob Dylan, it goes back to such a personal level that Bruce Springsteen and his words were able to affect you on. For a generation that was raised on music, this is the music that, this is what you lived your life by. This was the Bible. This was church.
The how-to.
It was the Church of Springsteen. Yeah, it just you never felt. Whenever you turned on a Bruce record and the shit had hit the fan in your life,
Mhm.
there was always a Bruce song you could find that would make it feel a little bit better.
Pink Cadillac, maybe.
Yeah, Pink Cadillac. Um, I mean,
I always liked Lucky Town. I don't know why. It was
yeah, yeah.
it was not a typical Springsteen sounding song.
Um, yeah, I mean, it was just so many different songs and so many different configurations that gave you the same message. Um, I believe in the faith that you gave me. I believe in the hope that can save me.
Mhm.
You know, there's another line that I'm blanking on that I love that just tells it all. You know, oh, is a dream a lie if it don't come through, or is it something worse? I mean,
I'll
that
get
could
back.
be,
Let me get back to you on that one.
yeah, that could be written on my gravestone. Because, as you know, I'm a guy whose life was full of a lot of dreams. I mean, for all the great dreams that came true for me, the core basic dreams of, I don't know, certain things that I wanted in my life uh, weren't there for me.
Right.
And, and
And time in his life, they weren't there for him either.
right. And you know, it says something. It touches you in a good place. So, um, the only other question I had as I was sitting in the as I was sitting in the arena, my thoughts ran to Lake Oswego, and I couldn't help but thinking, did his first wife come to this show?
Oh, they were from Lake Oswego.
Yeah, and he was married there the first time. That's where he got married.
For a cup of coffee.
So yeah, for until he got caught playing footsies at the pool with Patty. Um, you know, does Julianne Phillips? I mean, is she living there? Does she go? Does she? You know, is there? Are they friendly? You know, there was. Did he go over the house for dinner? I mean, you know, maybe
Maybe.
that's why Patty wasn't there.
Maybe. Well,
But it's like something you wonder. As a guy who's been through that situation, you wonder, does he, you know, was she there?
for her, it was an $8,000 show or more.
No, no, I'm sure if she wanted to go, she'd get it for free. There's probably people working on Bruce's show long enough that know exactly who she is. She's got a number, and all
And
she's
where
got to
she
do is
is.
call that number.
Yeah.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, it would shock me if David Marsh's wife, who I think runs the whole thing, if she didn't actually call her and say, you
Want to
know,
come by, have
I want to
some
come by, say hello, have
have,
dinner,
have some pasta.
bring your husband, bring the kids, you know.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, again, I'm not sure what happened to her or anything like that. I don't even know if she's still acting. But, you know, that was as close to it as, you know, it was right there. It's the next town over, man.
I like Lake Oswego. I used to live there when I worked in Portland.
There's some people who, you know, there's some people when the hydros come to town, they pack up and they get out of town for a weekend.
Springsteen's coming. Get my bag.
Get my bag. Let's get in the car and head off to Mount Hood.
Where are we going? We're going not here.
We're going a far away.
Well,
You like to think that everybody gets along, but as we know in
hard to
reality,
believe. Anyway, Vinny, good report. I'm glad you went.
I'm glad I won too, man. Now the last two times I saw Springsteen was in Asbury Park with Miami Steve on stage, and they sang um, Sun City.
Oh yeah.
And then this time I saw them, and they did East Street Shuffle. So I got what I came for the most part. I didn't get a piece of what I came for. I left. I left without dessert.
Oh dear. Yeah, you wanted
But
some of the oldies.
I've had no. Yeah, I wanted the. I wanted the soul stuff, and I didn't get it. But you know what? Sometimes it's better you leave the restaurant without dessert. You know.
You can go back. They'll always have dessert.
That's why the records are there.
That's right.
All right, my man. I will
All right, Vinny.
see
Good.
you on
Let's,
Wednesday.
it'll be a wacky Wednesday. Don't you forget it.
Be a wacky Wednesday, and listen, we got a lot to talk about with frontage roads. By the way, I have some new information from Spolpakia about the frontage roads.
The frontage road was invented in Spolpakia. Many people don't give them credit for that. And they made a frontage road before they had the town, which I thought was bold. It's absolutely backwards from the way it's done now.
I will even have some pictures from the frontage roads on our next report on Wednesday morning at 10:10, if the Lord's willing and the creek don't rise.
I found a street that had the end sign just the other day. End. And that was beautifully done. I should have taken a picture of it.
It's just a beautiful thing. End. What other street has a sign on it that says end?
Well, there's a number of them.
Yeah, I mean, there are, but, you know, next to a highway that says end. It just reminds
And they really
you.
mean it. It's not like the end. It's just end.
End. End. All right, Mikey. I'll see you on Wednesday if the Lord's will and the creek don't rise. Thank you all for listening. Remember, you can find us on YouTube every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10:10 or thereabouts. He's Michael Knight. I'm New York Vinnie. Thank you so much. Peace, love, and Manischewitz. Don't forget to subscribe and to like our broadcast. See you later.